Okay, today we're going to do a very in-depth Assassination Rogue M Plus DPS guide. If you're new to Assassination Rogue, this video is going to give you like 90% of everything you need to know about doing damage in M Plus. And if you've been playing Rogue for a little bit, then this video might get a little verbose at times, but I still think you'll learn something, so you should watch anyways. This is not going to be a guide video where I just read the Wowhead rotation chart as I smack target dummies in Dornogal. It's going to be the real deal. We're looking at a real key I did. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing you can do, believe it or not, is you're going to set up your focus target going into the pole. This is going to be the mob that has a dangerous cast that you want to kick, but it is not necessarily going to be your priority or funnel target. A focus kick is something that all classes can benefit from using, but it's super important for Assassination Rogue, specifically because of how our Kingsbane damage works, which I'll talk about during the rotation. The next thing you're going to do is pick your funnel target or your priority target. This is either going to be the highest priority mob in the group or the highest health mob in the pack. M Plus is about two things. It's about survival and it's about efficiency. Can you survive the damage going out, and how efficiently can you burn through the percentage requirement to time the key? So the target we pick to funnel is always going to play into one of those two concepts. So in this example, we want to be targeting the Gatekeeper because it has a very dangerous AoE spell called Wrath of Zol whatever, and that makes surviving as a group very difficult. It's a very stressful moment for the healer. You don't want that mob to get off more than one cast of Wrath of Zol Ramas. Another good example of a funnel target would be the Broodkeeper from Necrotic Wake. That mob reduces all damage surrounding mobs take by 50%. So it's a very efficient target to kill because it impacts our ability to kill other mobs efficiently. So when you're looking for a funnel target, always think about those two concepts. Is this going to help us survive, or is this going to help us get through the pack more efficiently? The Necromancer is another good example from Necrotic Wake of a target we funnel, right? Because the longer the Necromancer is alive, the more mobs it spawns. The more mobs it spawns, the harder it is to survive because there's more kicks that we have to hit, right? Especially in an uncoordinated group. But moving into the rotation itself, we're always going to open up with an ambush. The reason we do this is to apply the Deathstalker debuff, which is our hero talent. The way this works, if you don't know, is that this debuff has 3 stacks, and anytime you use a finisher, so Venom, Rupture, or Crimson Tempest, with 5 or more combo points, which is important, a stack is going to be removed. After you remove all 3 stacks, you, the player, are going to get a buff called the Darkest Night, which makes your next full combo point of Venom do insane bonkers damage. You should really only ever have to apply this mark a couple times throughout the dungeon. Obviously on the first pull we always have to apply it, but between packs you should have your Darkest Night buff active from the pull before. So you want to be monitoring this either with a weak aura or through the UI somehow. It's very important for your damage to know when the Darkest Night buff is active. After your ambush, you're going to Garrote. There's a lot of benefits and talents interacting with Garrote and Rupture, so this is kind of where things start to get a little crazy. The first reason we Garrote is because of Shrouded Suffocation, which means we get 2 extra combo points on Garrote from stealth, so it's a very effective combo point builder. That's why we like it. The primary reason we're getting our Garrotes out and what makes Rogue kind of so insane in AoE is a talent called Venomous Wounds, where every tick of our bleed is going to give us back some energy. For me, this is one of the biggest reasons I enjoy playing Assassination Rogue and M+. In AoE packs, you're always capped on energy. You always get to hit whatever button you want to hit, and it's just really fun and satisfying class to play. Another reason to hit Garrote out of stealth is for Ironwire. If you're running this talent, it will silence every target that gets Garroted, which is just kind of one of the strongest utility talents in the game to have a blanket AoE silence. at the start of every pack. It's a very, very strong utility skill. Not really that applicable to this pack because only the Corpse Harvester has a cast that we care about. Improved Garrote is another talent. Why we Garrote here out of stealth. Our Garrote's going to be doing more damage from stealth. I think it's 20%. I'll put that on the screen. And then the last reason is Indiscriminate Carnage, which is going to make Garrote hit 3 targets total instead of just 1, which kind of just amplifies every single one of the benefits I just talked about, right? After that, we're going to Rupture twice. Again, there's multiple reasons why this is strong and why we're doing it. 1 is for Venomous Wounds, which I just talked about. 2 is Indiscriminate Carnage, which I just talked about, right? Rupture is going to hit 3 targets instead of just 1. And we're obviously doing it just for the bleed damage in general. But the biggest reason we're getting these Ruptures out is for Scent of Blood, which at max stacks is going to give you a 20% agility boost, which is going to make your cooldowns and your funnel/priority target damage insane. This talent is kind of, in my mind, arguably one of the things that makes Assassination Rogue so meta in keys right now. And the reason that is because Assassination Rogue is so good at killing high health, high priority, dangerous targets. Scent of Blood makes your priority damage, aka the target you're putting Deathmark and Kingsbane into, insane. It's very strong. You kind of want to be monitoring your Scent of Blood stacks at all times, and in AoE packs you want to be at 20% or 20 stacks of Scent of Blood at all times, you know, getting that full 20% agility boost. The next thing we're going to do after we get our 20 stacks of Scent of Blood is we're going to Mutilate to get out Caustic Spatter. Caustic Spatter is a debuff that is going to cause all the damage you put into your current target to splash to nearby enemies. This ability is going to be your #1 damage ability in the breakdown at the end of every single M+ dungeon you do. Maintaining uptime on this debuff is going to be critical to improving your overall numbers in M+. Next is kind of my first mistake of the rotation. The next button I should be hitting before going into my cooldowns is either Evasion or Feint. In high keys, you should start looking at your big defensive buttons as part of your offensive DPS rotation. And maybe that's counterintuitive, but I don't think it is at all. Dying during a Deathmark or a Kingsbane window is going to be catastrophic to your DPS. Not to mention if that's during a Lust window or when you're using a potion. In M+, I think I would genuinely, and not trolling at all, recommend macroing Feint to your Kingsbane. Because Feint is off the GCD, you can technically combine it with any other button press. So what that macro would do is you would hit Kingsbane and then it would immediately cast Feint. And like I said, I don't think that's troll at all, especially if you're a new player to M+, and especially if you're new to Assassination Rogue. I think it's totally okay to use Feint that way. Obviously, as you get better and you get more practice with the class, you can separate those out so you get a little more control, but that's just my rant on using your defensive buttons. Next, we go into our cooldowns. So we hit Deathmark, we Potion, and we Kingsbane. We also use our Focus macro to send out a cake to hit that Drain Fluids without switching our targets. And so why is that important? If you don't know how Kingsbane works, I will tell you how Kingsbane works. You can think of it as a ramping damage over time spell. So when you hit Kingsbane, you kind of create this empty power gauge. And each tick of Kingsbane, it goes over 15 seconds, right? We'll say it ticks every second. The amount each tick is going to do is going to be based on how full your power gauge is. So when you first hit Kingsbane, and if you do nothing else, we're going to pretend like that every tick of Kingsbane is going to do 0 damage. But the way you fill up that power gauge is by putting damage into your Kingsbane target. So as our bleeds tick, as we're envenoming, as we're Fan of Knivesing, every single piece of damage we put into that target is going to help us fill up that power gauge. And so where the first tick would do 0 damage, the next tick's going to do 20, and then 40, and so on. You kind of get the idea. But there is a limit to how full that power gauge can get. So once you fill up that gauge, you're at max power, and every tick after that's going to be as strong as possible. So that's kind of why Assassination Rogue sometimes gets called like a ramping burst class, is um, we get the reason we're getting all of our bleeds out of the target is so we can ramp up Kingsbane faster, because the sooner we can fill up that power gauge, the more damage we're going to do with our Kingsbane. At this point, we still haven't gotten out Crimson Tempest, so you want to get that out early in the fight, as early in the fight as you can, to make sure you're getting every tick of the dot off before the mobs die. It's a really great button at 3 or more targets. The only special thing to call out with Crimson Tempest is there is no initial hit of damage when you hit the button. So you really only need to hit Crimson Tempest once, and then you don't think about it again until the current Crimson Tempest bleed falls off. Then we go into what I call our Fan of Knives and Venom spam, where you're using Fan of Knives as your combo point builder, and then anytime you're above 5 or more combo points, you're going to send an Envenom. And as soon as we proc Darkest Night, we want our next spender to be a full combo point of Venom. That's going to reapply the Deathstalker debuff, but also it's obviously going to do huge Venom damage, and all that Venom damage is going to spatter onto all nearby enemies. Kingsbane has a couple important timing windows. And the first one is either going to be at 12 seconds if you're running at Subterfuge, or 6 seconds if you're not. And what we're going to do is we're going to vanish offensively to take advantage of Master Assassin. Master Assassin is going to make all of your abilities have a 30% increased critical strike chance, which is just insane value to be having a 30% critical strike chance for 12 seconds of Kingsbane. It's really, really, really strong. The other timer inside of Kingsbane is 8 seconds, where you're going to want to use Shiv. Shiv lasts for 8 seconds. It improves your nature damage for 30%. That includes the ticks of Kingsbane, so it's really strong. I really like to track my Kingsbane timer is in the center of my screen for that exact reason. You know, there's a couple windows, timing windows that we want to know about. At 12 seconds, we want to vanish. At 8 seconds, we want to Shiv. The other benefit of vanishing here is we get to reapply some of our bleeds. So if you've lost any scent of blood stacks because mobs died or the timer ran out, you can refresh Rupture here to get back to 20. Excuse me, to get back to 20 stacks. You can also get out more Garrotes just for damage if any of your Garrotes have fallen off. It's also an effective combo point builder, like I mentioned before. We mutilate here because our Caustic Spatter fell off. And this is kind of why it's important to know why buttons exist inside the rotation. Because in AoE, the only reason to ever hit Mutilate is to reapply Caustic Spatter. Otherwise, you want to be using Fan of Knives as your builder, or Garrotes as your builder if you're inside of the Indiscriminate Carnage window. At this point, we kind of go back to our Fan of Knives and Venom spam. Again, our goal during this window is to tick down Deathstalker as fast as possible. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get above 5 combo points, hit Envenom, so we can get Darkest Night active again. There's sometimes this weird case where you might want to mutilate before sending your max combo point Envenom into Darkest Night to make sure you have Caustic Spatter up so that Envenom splashes. And the only other thing to watch out for is you can Crimson Tempest again if that falls off while 3 or more targets are still alive. But that's pretty much it. You know, you're going to get through the pack doing really, really big damage. I think I was at 6 million here. And before people troll me in comments, I know I sent my cooldowns into the Vanguard when I should have sent them into the Gatekeeper. You go back and rewind the video, the tank kind of 100% trolled us. You know, this is a pug, and the tank kind of had me twiddling my thumbs to the point where I assumed he wasn't pulling the Gatekeeper in. But this is a rotation guide, not a Necrotic Wake guide, so I just want to say I know that was a lot of information to take in, so thank you very much for watching. Again, I want to say I really appreciate everyone who's interacting with the videos. You know, when I first started this channel a couple months ago, I never really thought I would get any views, let alone have people liking the videos or subscribing to the channel. So just again, thank you so much. and good luck out there.